Today. Good morning and welcome to my Sunday live stream where we talk about photography and I leave it to an open Q&A because I always like the viewers to kind of drive the conversation. But um, as always, I'll give you some updates on what I've been up to and some recent rumors have come in. I don't like to speculate on rumors and things, but when there's leaked pictures, pictures worth a thousand words. Supposedly there's a vintage style OM system camera coming out in the style of the Olympus OM1 film camera, which I have somewhere here on a shelf somewhere. But uh, it's the old DSLR or not DSLR, but SLR style OM1. It looks interesting. I mean, if I, it depends. I mean, I'd buy it, but it really just kind of depends. We'll have to see what the specs are. There was some commentary about it being maybe a little bit large, and I'm okay with that. If the idea is to put the OM1 sort of guts inside this camera body, but give it a vintage style. So I'd be kind of okay with that. And then pricing, of course, I don't think they should price it more than an OM1 if that's the case. But then Uh, if it's close or a little less, that would be a very interesting camera, I think. So let me know what you guys think. But let me go into the chat window and see who's here. I see Darko's here. Good morning. And Roger, good to see you. David, hey David, how are you? And yeah, the OM3 is coming. So the idea is they might name it the OM3. So it's higher than the OM5, but not quite the OM1, which kind of makes sense, right? But it's all speculation. And good morning, Steve. Hello, and Jeff Painter. Good to see you. And the great Vanzini. Wow, 7:15. You're actually awake. That's cool. Uh, I guess 7:15 a.m., right? And let's see who else is here. John Follows. Good to see you. And Lysippus. Nothing on TV, so might as well watch my stream, right? Makes sense. And let's see. Marco, good to see you, Marco. Always good to see you, Marco. And Zachary, awesome. So there's that. And I got a message somewhere from I think it was Darko wanted me to talk a little bit about uh doing birds in flight or birding with our modern cameras, right? Like the OM1 is what I use. And I've done a few videos on, the settings that I use. But lately I've been doing more like backyard birding because it's so cold. I just and the roads were bad, so because we got like a foot of snow, I guess. I don't know. It's still out there. Uh, but yeah, backyard birding is a little bit different than sort of the birding that I do like when I go out to Conowingo Dam or go out to Huntley Meadows, where it's mostly the larger water birds and raptor types like bald eagles and osprey. These larger birds, the settings that I gave in my videos, I think still apply and it works perfectly fine in those situations. But for backyard birding, I'm still working on it, still tweaking uh, my settings and my technique. It's a little bit different. The problem being is these birds are so small, so you have to get pretty close to them to get them to fill the frame or at least get enough pixels on them to get a decent shot. And if you look at my recent Instagram and Flickr pages, I posted a bunch of stuff there, and they came out okay. I mean, there was a lot of misses. I probably have taken because I was using Pro Capture. You pretty much have to use Pro Capture a lot because these birds are fast. And if you have a pro lens that can do 50 frames per second, that's another big plus. So my 300 f4 can do that, but there's a downside to that. Uh, and I'm gonna try and do some shooting today and tomorrow using the 75 to 300. So I did a little bit this morning, so I'll share those with you and talk about uh, the settings and technique for like backyard birding where you set up a bird feeder and you just kind of sit there. And I'm trying to put a video together sort of outlining all of that, right? Um, I thought I could do it yesterday, but I don't know, I just can't finish a video to save my life sometimes. But yeah, there's that. So let me see if I can pull up this morning's stuff. I have to rearrange my windows a bit. Put that there, put that over here. And so I just imported these. I haven't really looked at them yet because I was taking all these pictures just before the stream started. Uh, so if I go to this page so you can see, and I'll keep the chat window open. Let's see if I can size this. If I do that and that. Okay. Uh, so let's see, 1,600 images. And that's not hard to do when you're doing pro capture, right? Let's go up to the top here. So let's take this shot, for example, right? So I have my bird feeder set up here, and then I have some sticks on the ground here for them to kind of perch and fly up to or fly down to. So I kind of set up a situation where it's it gives me uh, more chances to catch them flying, right? But there's not a lot of room between this and this. So what I found was when they're flying down from the feeder down to the stick, they really don't open their wings up. They just kind of drop down. And then when they're flying up, then I get some decent shots. The other thing is, what I'm anticipating here is I want to catch this bird flying up to here or this bird flying down. So I try to leave as much empty space in the center and put the birds in the corner or the bottom of the frame or the top of the frame so that when they start to fly, they fly into the frame. So I don't center the focus or put the bird in the center of the frame. I put them, uh, in the corners or at the top and the bottom. So you'll notice, uh, so what I did was I'm sitting there holding it down with Pro Capture running. And then as soon as I see the bird take off, I push the button, right? The shutter button. So this is the first frame of the Pro Capture. This is not me just taking a random picture, right? Uh, and if we sequence through them, let me enlarge this just a little. So this is all Pro Capture. And now you can see the bird is just starting to take off. And then he's lifted off, and now he's opening his wings, closed, open, closed, and then he's on the perch. So how long did that take? So I'm using the 75 to 300 here at 25 frames per second. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, really 5 frames of the bird in flight. So, that's a fraction of a second that the bird, 5/10 of a second, if that, uh, to go from here to here. So they're fast, because you're so tight in the frame. But the problem is if you try to shoot a wider frame, the birds are going to be so small in the frame, you're not going to get enough pixels on them. So even if you do capture a decent wingspan, they are uh, they're too small in the frame to get a decent shot. So let's take let's see. This is a nice frame. So let's zoom in on this one. And let me see what the EXIF data says. We are at ISO 3200, 1/4000th of a second. So I'm under 200 millimeters on the 75 to 300. So what I would do is just, let's just apply a preset. Let's see what we can do with this image. Because this is a decent shot. And I'm going to crop in. Let me get into the develop mode. So I'm cropped in here to less than 3 megapixels, right, on this bird. And I'm going to just drop the exposure down a bit in a couple places, the highlights, because they're kind of clipping. Maybe over here too. Okay. And then, and this is a lot of what I do in my photo editing live stream. But I'm gonna just darken these areas here, and then adjust the white balance, make it a little warmer, and a little less green. Okay, that looks good. So I'm gonna export this out. And oops, let's go over here. Oops. All right, so there's the image. So this is, like I said, this is one I captured like half an hour before the stream started. So one is the 75-300 is a great lens, first of all. The OM1 did an excellent job of tracking and focusing on this bird. And number three, DxO Photolab did a great job of processing the image and extracting all the detail that I can. But I did clip some of the highlights. So those are all the positives. The negative here is I still didn't get enough pixels on this bird. So I did lose quite a bit of detail. Uh, I think mostly because I just couldn't fill the frame with the bird. Because if you look at the original image, right? I mean, we're talking this part of the frame, and yet still able to get some pretty decent detail. So that's a keeper. So those are the basic things. So Pro Capture, you'll also notice my settings here, 1/4000th of a second. I'm wide open at f6 on this lens, and I'm using auto ISO, shutter priority. And did I dial any? I didn't dial any exposure comp, but I'll do that sometimes to adjust for. So I should have probably dialed a -1 exposure comp here to save the highlights a little better, because they definitely clipped right here. But not bad overall. Okay, let's see, where's the next sequence? The next sequence is probably, yeah, this is another sequence. Where did this start? This started probably, yeah, now the, yeah, what I was waiting for here is, you'll notice the same thing, right? I have the bird here in the top right corner because I'm hoping the bird flies into the frame this way. And I have Pro Capture, bird detect, all of that stuff on. And yeah, so the bird starts to take off, and that's a pretty nice shot, right? Right here. And that's not bad. That's a pretty decent shot. I mean, the problem being is the bird feeder's in the frame, right? So I don't have the best angle. Okay, so now the bird is out of the frame. It'd have been nice if he had his wings spread, but the timing just wasn't quite there. So that's not a bad one there, right? So let's apply a square crop. I'm not going to go through the full edit, but I just wanted to show you what I would do with this image in terms of composition. So that's another shot, right? And again, excellent job tracking and autofocusing. DxO, of course, will process this. I don't even need to do any editing to this. I can just export it with a simple crop. Uh, and there you have it. So not bad. But again, all of the positives I talked about before in the previous picture and all of the negatives that I talked about apply to this image as well. You know, the only difference being is this is a cardinal instead of a sparrow or whatever that other bird was. And then here it flew out of the frame. So basically the problem is, let's go to wherever I started here. So if we go through the sequence, I'm trying to capture the bird. And the problem is the bird flew out of the frame instead of into the frame. There's another bird down here. Actually, that'd have been a cooler shot, but that's not the bird in focus, right? And then it just flew out of the frame completely, and that's it. Then I got all these empty frames all the way down to here. The birds just move way too fast for me to keep track, right? And trying to figure out what direction and all of that. Maybe eventually I'll get better at that, but um, the other thing I noticed was those were a couple of good examples, right, of how well the autofocusing, and I'm not on the new firmware yet, the latest one for the old one. I'm still on the previous one, so uh, I'm trying to get a feel for the older firmware before I upgrade, so that when I do upgrade, I'll be like, okay, yeah, there's definitely some improvement here. But what I noticed was that if the bird is completely white, like it's like a egret, the great egrets are white water birds, or very, lighter color birds. The camera has a little bit more trouble with those. The red birds, like this freaking cardinal, uh, this guy, no problem. It really does well with birds that are dark, like starlings and woodpeckers with the spots, and cardinals of any variety, male, female, that have oranges and reds. The camera does a much better job. It'll shoot through branches and find the bird. It finds the bird no problem, but when the bird is kind of a lighter color, like a lighter tan or white, and it gets behind the branches, it struggles more. And if it's a completely white bird, it really struggles with the autofocus. I mean, I can eventually nail the focus and everything, but it's not like as snappy as it is with these other colored birds. So it's kind of an interesting observation I've made by shooting these birds and variety of birds compared to shooting some of the water birds and other birds. Okay. Uh, Let me see if I can give you some other tips here, and then I'll go back to the chat. So if you have any questions or want to talk about something, just start leaving some comments now, and I'll get to it. I just wanted to kind of go through these because I just uploaded these to my computer. So same idea here, right? I have the bird in the right side of the frame, and I'm waiting for him to fly over here to the left. So let's see what he does. So this is all see, he flew to the right. He did not fly into the frame, and this happens all the time, but it looks like the camera nailed focus, but it's still in the plane of focus of the feeders, so that's that's not a big deal. But yeah, this bird just flew out of the frame. And then I captured, let's see, by the time I let go of the button, I don't know, I captured another 7 or 8 frames. But you can see I'm panning to the right. Watch. So I'll do this in sort of a, so I start panning to the right. As you can see, the bird feeder's moving, but it's too late. That bird is too fast. It is gone and out of the frame. So I was trying, but you have to be so fast. Okay, here's another sequence. This bird was flying in. This is kind of an interesting shot. These pigeons are flying in and out of my yard constantly. So I said, okay, let me whip the camera around and see if I can catch one in flight. And let's see how it did. Yeah, it wasn't able to focus fast enough, but that's a fraction of a second. Let's see if we get further in. All right, that's good. So it took, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. How about this frame? 4. So with the 75 to 300, it took 4 frames at 25 frames per second to get this bird in focus. Because all I did is I saw the bird and I picked the camera up and I whipped around. You know, I'm pretty good at getting the birds in frame very quickly. I'll give myself credit for that. But I whipped the camera around and hit the shutter button. And we captured 4 frames out of focus at 25 frames per second. Right? So here's the first one. I saw the bird in the corner of my eye. I whipped the camera around. That frame's out of focus. That frame's out of focus. That frame is also out of focus. But this one's in focus. This one's doing really well. This one's in focus. So let's see how long I was able to track the bird. I kept up with it pretty well all the way. And then it flew out of the yard. And I said, okay, screw it. This is a little out of focus. It's kind of focused on the wing here. But yeah, and I probably didn't zoom in or out. Let me see where the exit data is. I'm at 75 millimeters. So I'm zoomed all the way in, or I'm sorry, out. But this is not a bad shot here, right? So let me just do a quick edit on this one. And we'll crop in. Maybe a little tighter. So again, I'm getting like 2 or 3 megapixels on this bird. And then let's just do a smart lighting and a little bit of that. And pop a little color in there. Export that. And there you have it. So again, I mean, and this is the 75 to 300 lens. This is not the Pro lens, right? So I think I'm pretty impressed so far. But yeah, so that was sort of just a quick jerk of the camera over to the bird, get it in the frame, and start firing, right? But the camera took 4 frames, 25 frames per second. to get it in focus. That's pretty good. And this bird is stood out pretty well to the background, so I think that's partially why it was able to nail focus very quickly. And this is also a darker bird. You know, pigeons are kind of a dark gray. And it had some good color and legs and a good wingspan. It did a great job overall. Nothing to complain about here. But okay, let me see if there's any other good examples here. Oh, let's see. Pictures of Ellie. Love my dog. It did a good job with Ellie too. I love this shot of Ellie here. She's got this mean look on her face, and then the angry bird's got a mean look on their face. I thought that was kind of a cool shot of her. But let me go down. And I was not using Pro Capture with Ellie because I can, when she starts to run, I'm fast enough to hit the shutter button. Let's see. This is a bird. Oh, I want to get this bird. That's pretty good there. That's a little out of focus. This one's better. That one's pretty good. But again, the bird is so small in the frame. How about this one? Ooh, this one looks really good. I put some walnuts in the bird feeder. He got lucky. He got lucky. Wow, that's an awesome shot there. That's definitely going on my Instagram. Let's see. These are my sticks. There's a couple. All right, I don't see anything. Let's see, this guy. That's a pretty good shot. Yeah, that's a good shot. It just needs a little editing. You know, just some brightening. You know, just to add in. I think here I dialed in -1. Oh, I dialed in -2 because I didn't want to clip the thing. And then we'll just add a little brightness there on the head. But okay, we'll end there. So look for the video coming later this week, where I'll go into more detail and show you all the settings in the camera. And I actually have some footage. Let me see. I just recorded. I tried to record this morning some footage, so you can see through the EVF, the autofocus points and everything. So we'll do that. So that hopefully that'll be at least a fun video to watch. It's always fun watching the camera working, right? Okay. Yeah, it was a dark-eyed junco. There's a lot of those in my frickin' backyard. Dark-eyed juncos and of course the house sparrows and cardinals. I get a lot of cardinals. What's been a little bit lean lately, I used to get a lot of blue jays in the summer. But what's been a little bit lean is I'm not getting a lot of blue jays, and woodpeckers are a little bit lean. I did get a frickin' flicker in my backyard. I've never seen a flicker in my backyard. Usually the flickers I see over at Huntley Meadows, but I got a flicker in my backyard. Um, but okay, let's see. Uh, Now the tufted titmouse I don't normally get very often, but I'm getting a lot of tufted titmouses this week. So that's exciting. I think it's a beautiful bird. That one bird where it was caught the walnut, that was a tufted titmouse. And the downy woodpeckers, I want to get some of those. I saw one, but oh, I spilled my coffee. I saw one, but it wasn't, I couldn't get it in flight. I just got him on a stick and then he flew out of frame too quickly. But I'll show you this. So here's a little bit of footage from the camera that I was able to record. And that's just a playback. But what I wanted to show you here was so it's on there, but this is I'm just too tight in the frame. Because look what happens. I have good focus on the bird while he's sitting on the tree or on the branch. And then as soon as he takes off, the camera lost focus. It's still in focus here because he hasn't changed focal plane yet. But here, I'm starting to lose focus. So the bird tracking caught up, was, relatively was able to keep up, but you can see the focus points over here, and the bird is blurry. And then here it's just out of frame. So, and it's not until, like right around there, you can see the focus points are trying to get over there. But the bird was just too fast. So let's see if there's another example here. Well, not really. This is just a frame by frame of the JPEGs in camera. So that's in focus because, like I said, he hadn't changed focal planes yet. And then as soon as he starts to get a little bit out of the focal plane, how come it's not moving? Okay, here's a tufted titmouse. So here I was trying to get a bird on a stick shot. So my shutter speed was very slow here. I was probably at 1/1000th of a second. Hence, that's why the wings are blurry. The bird is showing motion blur. Otherwise, this would have been a tack sharp picture. And then boom, out of frame instantly. So I'm going to talk about all this in my video. The different focusing modes I use, target points, shutter speeds, and settings, and how I assign my buttons so I can quickly, do all of that. Okay, so let me go up and see if there's any questions. Let's see. So those those were the shots from this morning. Uh, just before the stream, like half an hour before the stream started. I'm gonna go back to the chat window. And I see Darko says, great biff work. Thank you so much. And there's ads. Yeah. Sorry about that. And Peter says, I've been getting news feeds about images of a leaked OM System 2025 camera. Some label it the OM3. Yeah, I saw that. I think I got one from, let me see. I'm going to pull up the most recent one. So this is from Notebook Check. So the rumor is OM1 internals with OM5 charm. Blah, blah, blah. Here's the video from 43 Rumors. But yeah, basically, it looks like they're gonna make it look like the original OM1. So what I can see in this picture here is, I see a creative dial down here, like on the Pen F. Over here, I see a front and rear dial that are very similar to the OM5 or EM10 or OM5 cameras. Here we have the mode dial with PASM, probably bulb and movie mode, and then some customizations over here. So I don't know if these are going to be like C1, 2, 3, 4, or if this is going to be like art filters or intelligent modes, things like that, right? And then over here we have a simple power button. I also noticed up in the top left corner there was a couple of buttons on top over here. So these might be function buttons like for um, HDR, bracketing, whatever, right? So that'll be kind of interesting. So this is the basically the OM1 camera from the film days. So it looks interesting. It looks interesting. Let's see. And the Ray Van scene, does mechanical shutter scare them off, or do you use e-shutter? Pro capture and high-speed shutter like SH2 is silent shutter. So you don't have the option to use pro capture or mechanical shutter. Now, if you do want to use mechanical shutter, it doesn't bother them. It really doesn't, because you're too far. You're far away. My presence, seriously, I'm probably only about 7 or 8 meters away from them at most. At most, I would be 10 meters because the birds are so small. You have to get close so you can at least fill the frame somewhat, right? But yeah, if they don't mind me being there that close to them, they're not going to mind the mechanical shutter. But the problem with the mechanical shutter, it's like what, 10 frames per second? Maybe some cameras will do 15. It's too slow. It's too slow. When I'm using my pro lens, I'm going to start shooting at 50 frames per second. And then that's the only way I'm going to be able to uh, get the wingspan, in the position that I want. Because even at 25 frames per second, you can see within 5 frames, that bird is out of the shot. He's gone. 5 frames at 25 frames per second. So I don't know what that is in terms of time, but that's fast, right? That's really fast. And if you try to zoom out so you can get a bigger frame, they're going to be too small in the frame, and you're not going to get enough pixels. So it's very, very challenging doing bird and backyard birding in that respect. When I do eagles and egrets and osprey, I can usually fill the frame with the bird. I can get a good 10 to 15 megapixels on an eagle. But these little juncos and sparrows and cardinals, if I can get 2 or 3 megapixels on the bird, I'm happy. If I get 3 to 6 megapixels, man, that is going to be a tack sharp image. So let me see if I have an image here that's about 4. Like this image here. This image here is 2508. So I got 6 megapixels on this bird. And I got great detail on them. The ISO is a little high though. So some of the detail got smudged. Let me see. I'm at ISO 2500. This image I'm at ISO 2500. But I got some good detail on the bird. But usually I don't get that many megapixels on the bird. It's hard. It's hard. What about some more videos about Pentax? Oh yeah. Uh, I haven't made any videos about Pentax. I've talked about it in the stream a little bit. But I did go shooting with my Pentax this week, and I'll talk a couple minutes about the Pentax. Let me pull up some images that I did this week. Uh, there. So here is this was with the photo club yesterday. Man, it was freaking cold. But anyhow, more people from the photo club. So yesterday I shot with the Pentax monochrome and the lens I'm borrowing from David, the 40 millimeter f2.8 limited, and that's a great lens, nice pancake lens. And but we were basically doing street architecture. These are all at 40 millimeters, which is a 60 millimeter equivalent in full frame terms. So I didn't have a very wide field of view to do these cityscapes, but I think they came out okay. Oh, that's the fisheye. So I only got a couple here. I don't know if I did any more. Let me see. Oh, yeah, there's one. I like this image too. Uh, just some nice that was the photo walk yesterday, was architectural type photography. Um, but as I've said before about this Pentax, the tones, the tones that I get from the full monochrome camera, I just love the tones that I get from it. And I've never been disappointed with the images from the Pentax monochrome camera. Now, like I said, I've said this many times. You can convert color cameras to black and white, and in a blotch, a beautiful image, just straight out of camera, and then editing the highlights and shadows and stuff. Really, I just can see so much detail and tonality to the images that I have a little. I don't quite get with the color converted type images. It's not to say I can't get great images by converting from color to black and white. Especially when using silver effects, the images are really amazing. But it's not so much about the technical aspect of it, saying, yeah, you can convert color to black and white. What's the difference, right? There really isn't that much difference. You can get really good black and white images from color. It's really about just the enjoyment of shooting in black and white and not having an option to shoot in color, right? It's a very different experience and a very different files that you get, and I just enjoy it. And that's this the Pentax monochrome, I'd say, is probably um, my favorite camera that I've bought in a long time, since the Pen F. I've liked all my cameras, but the Pen F and this monochrome camera, these are my two favorite camera purchases of all time. And it would kill me to have to live with only one or the other. I would definitely take the Pen F, but if I had the, I'm debating the Sigma 10 to 20 f3.5. I can get it for about 200 bucks or less, because I was struggling a bit yesterday doing the architectural photography, right? Uh, because I didn't have a wide enough angle. So, and I would love to do super wide angle photography with the Pentax monochrome, with the architecture in that location or any location, then start doing some landscapes and other things with it. It's just such a joy. Now I did shoot some monochrome with my new EM1 Mark One, and uh, I didn't do any editing to this image. Just straight out of camera. And of course, I'm using the 8 millimeter fisheye lens. And oh, I'm sorry, I did process this. I can see it in the sky. The blues in the sky don't normally get that dark. So I must have processed this to some extent. But in any case, this is a beautiful image from the and the tonality and everything from this camera when you convert it from color to black and white, it's pretty awesome. Let me let me look. Uh, Eisenhower EM1 Mark 1. Let's just pull the JPEGs. Yeah, this is the straight out of camera JPEG. So, no, I didn't do any editing. This is the straight out of camera JPEG. It's beautiful. You know, I just put it in the monochrome mode in the camera and shot JPEG, and I got this image. Uh, and that's why I keep saying over and over again, if you put me on a blind test with a Pentax monochrome versus something like this, which is a color camera monochrome profile, I'd be hard pressed to tell you the difference in all honesty. But it's not the same as shooting um, it's not the same as shooting a Pentax monochrome camera, which is awesome. So if you don't have a Pentax monochrome or you've been thinking about it, I highly recommend it. You can get them for like 1,600 now, which it's not a small amount of money, but it's pretty reasonable for a monochrome camera compared to say Leica, right? Okay. Eric says fantastic photos of birds. I really like the fisheye shots of Alex. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So they're on my Flickr and Instagram if you guys want to check those out. I did some fisheye photos using the 8mm fisheye Pro from Olympus on my OM1 here. I took the fisheye lens off and put it back in the dry cabinet. So I need to put my trusty. This is one of my favorite lenses, 25 1.4. Yeah, these actually right here. These are the two cameras I took out yesterday. So here's the 40mm that I borrowed. Uh, that's a pancake lens. 40mm f2.8 and has a sort of an inverted lens hood on it. Uh, but yeah, I love this. So I mean, this camera is still probably almost a kilo with the lens. It's not a light camera, but uh, you know, it's just a lot of fun. You know, this camera feels like half the weight of that one right now. It probably is. I'd weigh them, but okay. Uh, Alan says, I have an interesting comparison for you in about a month. Going to Africa with the OM1 Mark II and the 4150 2.8 Pro, along with my R5 Mark II and RF100 300 2.8. 14K versus 4K. Oh, that will be interesting. Yeah, definitely. What you can do is after you've processed the images and put them somewhere, just email me the link to where you posted the images of the comparisons, and I'd be happy to share them if you like. And taking the Oman primarily to use with Gandalf the Great White Wizard. Okay. And Eric says, I've been leaning more towards street photography as it's all unique, even if two photos are taken in the same spot. I've seen floods of bird and plane shots on my Flickr feed, but not much street. Yeah, so as much as I love birding and as much fun as it is, I actually like architectural type photography like I was doing, those buildings and things. It's just more my speed. Um, so like you, Eric, it's not like I'm tired of birding. I love birding and looking at bird photos, but I deep down, I would be happy with just doing architectural type photography, trying to find lines, angles, compositions of buildings, doing close-ups, doing wide shots, because buildings don't move. They don't mind if you take their picture, and there's lots of interesting geometry, I think, that can be found. Interesting details about buildings, on the buildings that an architect put, as part of the design that can easily get overlooked, that I try to find, you know, whether it's some kind of like, I don't know, some detail or pattern that they put, or it's hard to explain. But usually, sometimes the architect doesn't even see uh, what they've done until a photographer goes in and takes a picture and says, wow, look at how these angles come together. And the architect might, because I saw an interview once of an architect, and the photographer was sharing the photos that he took of this new building. And the architect was like, yeah, I didn't even think of that angle, but that really came together well. He was designing it for a different reason, but when you take it from different angles, the architect was pretty impressed with uh, his work and the photographer's work. Okay. You might find the latest Firm 1.7 might help with focus on birds. Yeah, everyone says it works great. I should update it. I will. I will eventually. And good morning, Eric. Good to see you. Good to see you. On the new cam, the question is sensor size. Really? It should be, if you mean by in megapixels, is it going to be a 20 megapixel or a 40 or something in between? Yeah, there is some question of that because it's rumored it's going to have a new sensor. But if you're referring to, like, is it going to be 4/3 APS-C or full frame, something like that, I would seriously doubt it's anything but micro four thirds. Uh, Otherwise, you know, what OM system buyer or Olympus buyer is going to buy it? Because they'd have to buy all new lenses. That would be a huge gamble to introduce a new mount, lens mount, full frame percentage camera. It's hard even with full frame. I use Sony A7R5 and do crop heavily on small birds. Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know how much more detail I would get with my A7R5. I don't have any long lenses for it, so I'll never know. I was thinking about trying my Fuji though. I do have the 55 to 200, which gives me an effective 300, right? And 40 megapixels, and it has bird detect. So I think it does. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it has some kind of subject detect in it. I was thinking about trying that, uh, and try to get a little bit closer, maybe 5 meters away from the birds, but we'll see. Yes, the DA 2.8 is fine. I have it mostly on fast tiny companion for the 18 to 135. Okay. Um, yeah, it's a nice lens. It's a little tight for architectural. Not bad for general street, like taking pictures of people, doing portraits. I think it's a great lens for, like, as a general purpose lens. It's a great lens, and it was quite sharp. And Bird is here. Hey, Bird, how are you? And Gordon says, hi, Rob. Not quite in the same lane, but did you pull the trigger on the Fuji Instax Mini Evo? Was sitting in your cart in December, if I recall. Yeah, no, I did not. And they're sold out now. I decided to go with the Hasselblad Instax Filmback. Um, I don't know if you've, I know I showed this in my last stream, but, or in one of my streams, but I got this Instax Filmback from my Hasselblad. And it just sort of cured my gas for the Evo. Because I have a lot of instant cameras already, and I just I just didn't see any point to buy the Evo when I have this instead. This is a lot more fun, but I have a Canon Ivy that I have for an instant camera, and then I also have here's some. I think a lot of you have seen this already, but here are the shots that I took with the Hasselblad with the It uses the Instax square film, so it's a little bigger too, right? Uh, but yeah, so I did not get it. I was that close. I was that close, but I changed my mind uh, and just decided to stick with the Hasselblad. And then great bird shots this week. Thank you. And there's a little bit of buffering I see. I'm just going through the chat. And it says, I used my EM1 Mark II with the Panaleica 9mm a lot last year in monochrome mode. Let me tell you, that lens is magic. Wow. Someone had the 9mm the Panasonic 9mm on the photo walk yesterday with their OM1. So I'm waiting to see. They're going to upload their pictures hopefully soon. I wonder if they decided to do black and white or not, but um, I really like my 8mm fisheye for doing those because you can correct it and make it rectilinear like the 9mm. Uh, but yeah, I've never heard one bad thing about that 9mm from Panasonic. And XMeta says, using EM5 Mark III, I miss one nice feature Pentax does, automatic horizon leveling. It's very addictive, and when shooting ice hockey, it helps so much, as I have no time to carefully observe the... I've been meaning to try that, because I guess it uses the IBIS to kind of shift a little bit. I think that's what you're talking about. Uh, but I think that feature is in my camera. I just haven't tried it yet. And Jeff says, do you use any color filters when you use your Pentax monochrome? Sometimes. I have tried some red filters because I only have one red filter. I wanted to get maybe a yellow one because the red is a little bit too strong sometimes. I was thinking about getting the red. I have a blue filter, but I can't think of too many applications I would use a blue filter. But I have a red one, and red is just a little bit too much sometimes. So I think I was thinking about getting yellow, but it works great. It works great. Uh, I don't I don't know if I have any examples. Let me just take a quick skim. Hmm. This is um this is a beautiful image of that I took with the Pentax monochrome. I just love this image. Look at the tonality of that. It's just gorgeous. Anyhow, uh I don't have any examples real quick. I'm gonna look one more place for you, Jeff. Uh it's my project folder, monochrome. We're close. I think I have an example. These are portraits. Hmm. Okay, I do have it here. Let me put JPEG only. Huh. I don't have any. Sorry, Jeff. I just, how about this one? I mean, I have it, I just can't find it right now. Pentax mono. Nothing there. I can't find it. Okay. Sorry, Jeff. I'll try and do some though. But when I did the red filter, it did as you would expect. It made the skies darker and made sort of the yellows pop really nicely. Um, but I felt it was too strong on skin tones. So maybe a yellow filter. Okay. And Art says, hi Rob, love your black and white shots as well as your burst shot. Just so challenging with the cold, not to mention the winds. Yeah. Today the weather's perfect. It's cold. It's like, oh, it's above freezing now, but it was like 22 degrees this morning when I was out and no wind and the sun was shining nice and bright. As you could see from the images I took, there was really good light. Oh, so I'm gonna go back out there after the stream and try and capture some more. And Instax meter are quite expensive here. It's like $2 a photo, but average salary is 1/3 of US salary. Yeah, that would be hard. So I buy the film on sale, the Instax Square for like $1 each. Otherwise, they're like $1.25. So yeah, it's still expensive. And the Gray Vancini says, I have the Evo, and well, yuck, the lens is just not that good. Mm. Yeah, I have one print from the Evo that I scanned in and zoomed on it because with my dying eyes, I can't see. Uh, so I have this one here. When the Evo was released, I have this one. So I scanned it to see how much detail it retained. So I don't know if it's the lens or it is partially the lens because I've gotten some pretty sharp images from the Hasselblad onto the Instax film, but it's hard. It's hard to nail focus because I think the focal plane is a little off in the back of the camera with the film back. So I have to I have to depending on the distance of the subject, or I have to shoot a very high aperture. It's I can't get it quite right. But I'm not going for perfection with that, right? I do the best I can, but I'm not stressing over it because it's just for fun and getting that vintage look. Stuff is out of focus all the time anyway. And Keith says, backyard birding idea. I use a small bowl feeder at the top of a thin pole to avoid many of the feeder in the background problems. Oh, yeah, I've done that, but a little bit differently. Let me show you. Um, because behind the feeder, Ah, this is not a good angle. Well, so behind the feeder, I have this tree, and just above out of frame, there's all these branches that the birds sit on and then fly towards the feeder. And that's how I got some of the shots of the birds in flight. Not necessarily on the stick down here, but I've gotten a lot of shots from them up there. So, like, this shot is, a cardinal flying off that tree that's actually behind the feeder. Um, but the idea you're talking about, I'll show you my version of it. But yeah, I should set that up again. But what I did, let me see if there's some in here. Uh, might be easier to. So I'm gonna go pick this, and I have an album here called Backyard Birds. So if you guys want to look at the images that I took in the full resolution, uh, let me just put that in the chat window. Um, yeah, there's a bird flying back into the tree, right? From the feeder back to the tree. Didn't have good light there. It's way down here. Yeah, you see these pictures here? This is the most obvious one. But I have this pretty thick branch, and what I did is I drilled a hole inside the branch and I filled it up with bird feeder. Uh, and so the birds land on this stick and, eat the bird seed out of the hole that's inside of this. And I think I get a pretty natural looking shot. So this shot here, I actually set up two flashes on the left side and right side. So this is a flash shot. If we look at the EXIF data, you can see I'm at 1/250th of a second. ISO, 12, no, ISO's a little high. I think because I was trying to get some more ambient light. But you'll notice here, flash fired. Um, this is another flash, and that's with flash. Let me go back to the album. But yeah, all these shots here. So it's the same idea, right? Here you can see the hole with the bird seed. This one was shot, wow, ISO 10,000, so I didn't have flash on this one. And what's fun is sometimes the birds fight over the bird seed on that stick. So this is all, yeah. I need to set that up again. Uh, but yeah, what you're talking about, this is kind of the same idea. You're putting the food in a centralized low spot, and then the birds come down, and then you don't have to worry about them flying in front of and behind of the bird feeder, right? But I just used the stick instead. Um, okay. But yeah, thanks for reminding me. I don't know why I've done good stuff before like that. I just forgot. And let's see. I see Gary's here. Let me see. I somehow my chat jumped way out. So Keith, yeah, Keith was talking about the bird. Okay. And Don at large, hello. It says, hi Rob, hope your New Year's peaceful. Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to 2025 and really enjoy my OM1 and 300 Pro lens. Is the 150 to 400 Pro a genuine step up in your opinion? Thank you. Uh, I would only get it if you want that zooming capability. Everyone that's owned that lens or have owned both lenses, they own the 300 and the 150. Jeff Painter is actually owns both lenses, if I recall correctly. Certainly, uh, System Natura, that also comes in the stream sometimes. Anyway, the viewers that own both lenses that are that have been in my streams have told me that they felt the 300 Pro was just as sharp as the 150 to 400, but they got the 150 to 400 to have that zooming in and out ability and for the extra reach, of course, right? Because it's 400 millimeters with a teleconverter, and then you can add additional teleconverters on top of that, etc. But uh, yeah, I'm definitely going to get the 150 to 400 one day. One day. But I'm never going to get rid of my 300 f4 Pro because that's such a small, compact, lightweight lens. Relatively speaking, for the reach and the quality that I get, the image stabilization is outstanding. It's expensive. It's less than half the price of the 150 to 400, but it's still double and triple the price of, the 100 to 400, right? So my advice would be is if you can find a very good used copy of it on eBay or KEH or MPB, all the used dealers, you can usually find them for $2,000 or less in mint condition or excellent condition. That's the best way to get that lens. Oh, you already have it. What am I talking about? So for everyone else. So yeah, I would only get it if you want that zooming capability and extra reach, but um, not because it would be sharper. And David says, until now, if everybody had to pick one camera, would it be DSLR or mirrorless? Which camera does everybody think until now is the best camera for your body of photography? It would be mirrorless for me, clearly. If I wanted to continue birding, it would be the OM1, but I prefer the Pen F. Still my favorite camera, and it's mirrorless. I mean, the key thing about the mirrorless is being able to put the focus point anywhere in the frame. And with the DSLR, unless you're using the live view feature, which is basically mirrorless, the DSLR, all your focus points are kind of centralized in the center and a little bit out to the edges, right? It's just not enough. So that's a big, big deal breaker for me with using DSLRs as my only camera, is because a lot of times when I'm taking I like to take pictures of my dog. I don't want to focus on her chest, right? I want to focus on her eye, and I don't want her eye to be in the center of the frame. I want it to be towards the top of the frame. So if you're looking at this live stream, you know, I would have her eye here in the frame, and I would move the focus point up to here and then take a picture. But with a DSLR, if you do focus and recompose, right? Like I'd move the camera up, focus on her eye, and come back to recompose, she's moved. And she's going to be out of focus. Her eye's going to be out of focus. But with a mirrorless camera, if I put the focus point right on her eye near the top of the frame, then I can take the picture instantly and not worry about losing focus on her eye. But a DSLR, I have that problem constantly. So I don't like to use my Pentax monochrome or my Nikon DF for that matter, taking pictures of Ellie, because I just can't move the focus point to where I want it in the frame. So if I focus on her in the center of the frame, then I have to recrop it so that it's composed or a composition that I like of her. So anyway, that's my reason for mirrorless. And Gary said, if you were to buy a new OM camera body, I think the first thing, if I were to buy a new OM camera body, I think the first thing I would add would be a leather half case to add a bit of grip. and easy access to change the battery when needed. Yeah, I'm the half cases are growing on me. I was looking at one for my EM1 Mark 1, but man, they want $60 for that. I'm like, $61. So I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this L bracket. I would take the L part off and just use the base plate. And this is $18, but I haven't decided which way I want to go. uh, but I like this half case, and I like the half cases that I have on, my this one, and my Pen F for that matter. But I got a half case for my EM5 Mark II, which I love, and the half case for my LX100 Mark II. I love this half case. And then, I use tripod a lot, so I put the smallest Arca Swiss plate that I can find. And on my Pen F, it looks really good. Where's my Pen F? It's all the way back here. I like the half case on the Pen F. So this would be similar to the OM1, right, or OM3 if it comes out. They probably have a half case where the half case has a little bit of a bump here built in. Because there's no bump on the Pen F, right? Just like this OM3 that we're looking at. And it does give a little extra grip. That combined with the thumb grip on the back, it's fair, right? But ideally, you hold the camera like this with your left hand with the lens, and then you use your right hand to control everything. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the half case. I wasn't originally, but I discovered that at least the half cases I've bought so far is they have a metal plate inside that covers the entire bottom of the camera. And that's critical, especially with these smaller cameras, right? Because you don't want to break the tripod mount on your smaller camera, like EM10, EM5, OM5. They're all plastic, so that makes the problem potentially worse, right? So yeah, big fan of the half cases. I just, these I paid like $25 for. I don't want to spend $60 for a leather half case for a camera that I'm just going to use occasionally. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm with you. I'm with you on that, Gary. Uh, yeah, I assume the lens, my old Polaroid. So let me see if I can find. I cannot. I mean, I've gotten a couple images decently sharp from the Instax square format. And if I use Topaz Sharpen AI, it does a really good job, really making the images sharp. I think I have one example where I did that. Uh, where is it? How do I get? No, not that, not that. I can't find it now, of course. Maybe this one? Yeah, I might have done. Yeah, I did it on this one. So this is a picture of Ellie. This was really blurry, but the Topaz Sharpen Eye really cleaned it up. And then I thought I had one. Uh, I don't do it. I only did it on a couple images because I was pretty content with how it looked without doing an additional sharpening. Further down here, I don't see it. Here's some more Pentax monochrome images that I did. Uh, architecture. Gosh, I love this camera. And I love doing architecture, of course, right? But okay, sorry. I don't see an example. Is it further up? Nope. Let's see that and that. I don't know if I showed this before. I think I did talk about this, so I won't bring it up again. But this is the Pentax monochrome. This is the Sony A7R5 converted to black and white. But yeah, I talked about that last week. Okay, sorry about that. The Topaz Sharpen AI works really well, sharpening up the old Instax films. And oh, hey, Jeanette, how are you? I have an OI share question for the group or for Rob. Anyone here used OM Systems app on their phone? Let me see. Do I got any pictures on here? Yeah. So this is the old EM1 Mark 1. So if it works on this, it'll work on an EM10. So I need to go into play menu, connect to phone. Okay. I've never connected to my EM1 Mark 1, but I got the ubiquitous barcode. So I'm going to open up the OI Share app. So I have the OI Share app. I'm going to click the Easy Setup. And then this is telling me to scan. So we'll go ahead and scan like that. So the camera info is popped up. Okay, I'm going to click Start Setup. Register. So now it's going to register the camera with the OI Share app. Okay, and it says, this asks me to connect the Wi-Fi. So I connect. And then let's see. Good, it says connected. Now I can close this. And the camera's connected. So I want to import photos, right? I'm going to do import. And these are the pictures I took yesterday. So let me select a couple of JPEGs here. Okay, so I've selected a few images by just touching. And then I'm going to click the download. And let's see. Yeah, it seems to be working fine, but we'll wait for it to actually get them into the camera. So did it get one? Yeah, it's loaded two. It's got 4 more to go. Okay, let's cancel here. All right, and let me see if these got in. So I'm going to go back out. Oops, I need to go up here. We'll do edit photo. Yeah, and it's here. These are the That's the architecture picture I took yesterday. So that's kind of an overview from scratch, connecting. It's pretty quick, and it downloads pretty quick. And this is an EM1 Mark 1 from 2013, right? The EM10 Mark II came out in 2015, but it's pretty much the same thing as this camera, less a couple of buttons, I think. Okay, so let me know if that helped at all or if you're still having problems. Okay, hope they come out with a pen since the PL10 is not available. Yeah. And let's see, have the 300, but not the 150 to 400, beyond my budget. Oh, okay, so it's System Natura that has it then. I thought it was you, but it's System Natura has it. And I've heard it from others as well. Uh, if anyone here owns both, let me know or I forget who asked. What do you think about the 150 to 400 versus the 300? And Roman is here. Hey, Roman, how are you? Good to see you. And I was in the shop to give some film rolls to develop. It seems there is no analog film shortage anymore. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I don't have any problem buying film. I got more rolls than I need right now. I need to get out and shoot some film. Let's see. The HLD7 grips are cheap for the M1. Oh, that's true. Um, but I don't know if I want a dual grip for it. I'd rather just keep it nice and compact, right? But I'll look into that. Maybe, like I said, if they're cheap, I'll just get one, like 30 bucks. Why not have a full-on EM1 Mark 1? Go all in, right? And the Great Fancina says, man, those are nice. Oh, thanks. Yeah, from the Pentax monochrome, right? But even from the EM1 Mark 1, I thought the monochromes looked great. Straight out of camera. Roman says, do you have the newest firmware on the camera? Oh, sorry. Talking to Jeanette there. And Blaine says, really love those architectural shots with the Pentax. That camera and that type of photography are a match made in heaven. Yeah, it does. It does great. I love it. I mean, if you go to my Flickr page, you can pixel peep them and really get a much better uh, idea of the tonality and details that you can get when you have really a good lens and good, great camera, I should say. I misspoke there a little bit, but. And Swampig says, big fan here. Just want to say, hey, thank you for all oh, thank you, Swampig. It's good to have you here. Thanks for coming in. And I use a dongle to upload my phone. Much easier. Oh, that's true. So what he's talking about is like, you can get these card readers, right? Separate. Plug it directly into your phone, put your card reader in, and load the images that way. I think, right? I think that's what you're talking about. And Jeanette says, thank you, Rob. Must be my phone then. Yes, they're loading like mine, but after finishing, it says didn't import, lost communication. Oh, that's interesting. The only thing I can recommend is try putting your phone into airplane mode and then turning the Wi-Fi on individually, if that's something you can do on your phone. So I use Android. Restart your phone, obviously. Always shut it, turn it off and turn it back on again. But you can put the airplane mode on. Oops. So there's my airplane mode, right? So I turn the airplane mode on, but then I can turn Wi-Fi on individually. Sometimes that works, but I don't know. Give that a shot. That's another hack that I learned years and years ago when people started connecting their phones and their cameras. And that used to work for me. Now I don't have any problems, but so I don't have to do that. But earlier on, I did have to do that. Okay, so I don't see any other questions in the chat, and Uh, I think we talked about everything we need to talk, or what I've been doing with the birding and stuff. If anyone has any other questions or would like to talk about something, I'm here. I still got a little coffee left. I'm happy to entertain your questions and comments. Let me uh, let me go to. I guess this is a good time to show images, right? I'll show you one of my favorite images. Uh, Give me 1 second here. So we'll go back to my Flickr. We'll look at more recent stuff. So this shot here, which is the thumbnail for the stream today, this is straight out of camera JPEG using the dramatic tone filter on the EM1 Mark I and the 8mm fisheye lens. And as always, I have all the EXIF data down here, but I shot at f8 because I wanted, this lens is not known for sun stars, but I wanted to get at least something. So I got a little bit of a sun star here and a little bit over here for this shot. So this is the 8mm fisheye at f8. I didn't want to stop down more than that, for diffraction purposes, and there was really no need to. I'm not going to get better sun stars stopping down this lens more than I already have. Let's see. And then another thing I did, these are the Pentax monochrome. I kind of like this shot. I wish I had a longer lens because this is already heavily cropped. And I think I shot this at f22 or something ridiculous. Let me see. I was at f18. This is the problem with wearing gloves in the wintertime is a lot of times I will bump the dials. In particular, I bumped the aperture wheel, and somehow my camera went to f18, and I didn't realize it. So this shot here was also at f18. This was not intentional. So if you're looking at my EXIF data, you're like, why the hell did Rob shoot this at f18? It was by accident. Okay. And let's see. This is let me see what else is in here. Yeah, these are just this is the 8mm fisheye without dramatic tone filter. So I just this has some very light processing in it. But this lens, and this is pretty much the full frame. I didn't have to crop or do anything. But you can see how much detail is in this image and how sharp this lens is. It's amazing, the 8mm fisheye lens. And this is on the M1 Mark I. And I shot this at a reasonable aperture, f7.1, ISO 200. So it doesn't really get much better than this on a technical level. I'm not talking about the composition or the quality of my imagery here. I'm just talking about the camera's technical and the processing via DxO, getting rid of any chromatic aberration, because there was a little bit of purple fringing I found here along this lettering and the stems that are holding it. But that was cleaned up very easily. And if we go to the corner, oops, let's look at the corner. Look at the corner, how sharp the edges are. I mean, I don't have anything in the far corner, but yeah, look at this corner. Everything is sharp all the way up. It's amazing, all the little twigs. So the 8mm fisheye Pro is expensive, but it's an amazing lens. It's so sharp. So yeah, go ahead and visit my Flickr page if you want to check that out. And I just started a new album for the 8mm fisheye Pro. So this is a new album for this lens. And all my albums on my Flickr page are generally they're related to a lens or a camera body. So if you want to see, uh, for example, here are Pentax K3 monochrome comparisons, where I'm comparing the K3 monochrome with Kodak Tri-X side by side. And this is one of the most, or one of the best examples of how the tonality from the Pentax monochrome is so similar to film. This is a really good example. It's very similar to Tri-X. It's not because of the contrast. It's not very similar to HP5, where it's a little bit soft. But there's that. And you can download the images for personal use. So you just click over here and you can download the full resolution. I always try to download the full resolution. I always leave all the EXIF data in. So my Flickr page is really for you to analyze and compare images. You know, it's just another source for you to use. Sort of like DP Review, you can download all the photos from their site. I've kind of left it open for you guys to download my photos for personal use and to analyze and see if, you know, this camera or this lens or this camera lens combination, whatever, makes sense. Okay, I think I saw a question here. John Steiner says, could you discuss a little why you use Flickr over some other photo service, pros and cons, thinking about using it? Okay, so definitely. The main reason I use Flickr is because I can upload the full resolution images. There's some limit somewhere around 100 megapixels, something like that. I run into that once in a while, but not very often. But I can upload the full resolution JPEG image. And I can include all of the EXIF data in the image. I don't have to type it in separately. And you can go to show EXIF. And if you dig in all of this, you can see what software did I use, sometimes some additional settings. So this is the main reason I use Flickr, is because I can share images with full information, with full transparency about the images that I'm creating using my cameras and lenses. That's the main number one reason why I use this. Full resolution images. For example, if you go to my panos, I can create albums in Flickr. Where's Pano? So these are some of the biggest images I have. Let's see, this is 12,000 by 5,600. And this is 78,000 pixels, but I've hit the limit sometimes. This is my very biggest image, 325 megapixels. This I use the EM1 Mark II with the 7518. So this is like 30 high-res shots stitched together. But yeah, you can't do this on other platforms like Instagram or Facebook. You know, those platforms, they basically, you know, compress your images. I'm sure they're compressing here as well, but those other platforms, they compress your images to smaller sizes, sometimes much smaller sizes for you to share with. And I can share any aspect ratio in almost any resolution that I want. And you can also upload videos and things like that. And I can create albums and share things. And I can make albums private. So I have some private albums in here that I share with my family, you know, Christmas and Halloween, things like that, right? So that's why I use Flickr mainly. There may be other platforms that offer a lot of the same things. I'm not aware of them. I don't doubt that they're out there. I think like SmugMug, which they might own Flickr, but you know, there's other platforms out there. that may be better. But I just started with Flickr and I like it. And I got the Pro. I pay like $75 a year. You can get it for like cheaper the first year, but then you pay like $75 a year to have the Pro where you can upload unlimited images. If you're not Pro, you can only upload 1,000 images. And there's some additional perks to become a pro member. So you can go to their pro page and say, I want to become a pro, and they'll tell you all of the other things. I don't take advantage of any of those, but there are some advantages. You get like discounts on prints and things like that. There's some other significant advantages, I think. Uh, Now there used to be a way to, if you're a professional, and I call myself a professional. I'm not, because I do jobs, but I'm not like hardcore professional, like high-end professional, but you can upload albums to Flickr and create a specific size or format that your client might want. There's some more sophisticated features for professionals that I've never used. So I can't talk about those, but it does have some other features. But the reason I use it is for the things I talked about: full EXIF data, high resolution images, and it allows me to be transparent and create albums, as opposed to Instagram and Facebook, which is the only other two places I like. Instagram is really the only other place I post images, and I rarely post anything to Facebook. And XMeta says, if you like the 300 f4, you might like the Sigma 100 to 300 4EX for Pentax. A bit larger, but I love it for deer bird. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the one that I got. I got the PLM something. That lens does that image I showed earlier. I took with that lens. It's really nice. It's good enough. I'm not trying to get all in on Pentax. I just want to get a handful of lenses for it. And that's how it starts, right? But I want to get a handful of nice lenses for it and just enjoy it for more of the street architectural type stuff. And then I got the one telephoto lens to take out occasionally. But I'm thinking more um, architectural street photography for the telephoto lens. Maybe some landscapes, but not so much wildlife. For wildlife, the autofocusing and the frames per second and all of that is would frustrate me when I know I have an all-in-one, right? And if I want to do bird on a stick stuff exclusively, maybe. But anyhow, but yeah, I appreciate those recommendation. You always give good recommendations, though. I really appreciate that. Um, is the Pentax monochrome cheap? Like I mentioned it earlier, you can get them used for about 1,600 brand new. They're 2,200. I bought mine for just under 1,600 with 2,000 clicks on it. So just to give you an idea. And the lenses aren't that expensive. Anywhere from $100, like I paid for my 50 millimeter f1.4, which is a 75 equivalent, up to I paid the most expensive lens I bought was a 35 2.8 macro lens, probably one of their best lenses. I paid $280 for it. That was the most expensive one. They don't get too expensive. I mean, you can. You can spend $1,000 if you want, but you can get a lot of great lenses in the $200 range for the Pentax. Pentax K3 monochrome is $21.89 for a used one. That's crazy. Uh, there's no way. Pentax K3 monochrome. Yeah, here's a used one from Map Camera. Very good condition. They should have a shutter count. Oh, this one's a little beat up though. I don't see the shutter count. Yeah, there's a reason that one's 1600 exactly. But here's one. This looks really good. 1750. That looks mint. And they're in the United States. I don't know where you are, but they're in the US. So this would be local to me. Do they charge shipping? Free shipping. So 1750 plus tax, mint. Anywho, yeah, I wouldn't pay 21.98. That's $100 more. You can get them brand new. Wow. Yeah, I wish there was a MFT monochrome. I agree. They made a Pen F monochrome. Oh, excuse me. Man, I've been talking about this for about a month now. I need to get some Maxwell House. This coffee is weak. This, whatever this is. And would you be so kind as to explain how panoramic photos should be taken correctly? Sure. Uh, sorry. It looks like I froze there, right? Okay, so I'll talk about this because doing panorama shots, there is a workflow. It's not about, uh, there's a lot of steps involved. So the simplest way to do a panorama, let me just look at your question. Explain how panoramic photos should be correctly taken. Okay, so the simplest way is you have a camera, right, with whatever focal length. Typically, you want to use a standard, like 50 millimeter standard. In this case, on Micro Four Thirds, it'd be a 25 millimeter. For the other shot, I used a 75 millimeter telephoto lens. So use the appropriate focal length, but uh, typically a panorama, you're doing 3 to 4 shots. So you're going wide, right? And if you're going to do it handheld, put your thumb right about, a lot of times they'll have a ring. I found a lot of times when you have a silver ring on the lens, that actually is right near the nodal point of the lens. But, if you don't have a silver ring or something, you can put your thumb, it's hard to see that from that direction. Put your thumb about halfway out on the lens, and then use the grid lines in your camera and level meters. You want to make sure you're level. You want to use the grid lines to help you set up the rule of thirds grid lines. And you want to overlap each shot, and you want to rotate on your thumb, which is close to the nodal point. So use the level meters and make sure you stay level, and try not to tilt up or down, right? You want to make sure the camera is pretty much perfectly level like this. So you take 3 shots and you overlap each shot by about 1/3. So let me look real quick. No. This was taken on October 12th. Wow, is that the last panel I did? I thought I've done some since then. So fourth quarter 2024, October 12th. Of course, the folder's been deleted. Picture taken October 12th. 2024, October 12th. I'm sorry, give me a second. Why isn't it in this folder? Would it be under projects? It is under a project. This is not really a project. Sorry, I'm just talking out loud. I need to organize my folders back. So here's what I'm looking at. I have to take your chat down. Here's a panel I did recently with my TG5. So it was this image, and then I took a second image and a third image. So I have these three images, right? Center, left, and right. There's no way to show these three. So you can see I have center. Usually I start in the center, but it doesn't really matter. I start in the center and then go left and right. So I took three images. And then you have to stitch these using third-party software. I use Photoshop. So I would just right-click, export to application. Then this will open up. And then you would stitch these in Photoshop, right? Oh, I should have layered these. So I got center, left. Where'd the other one go? One. No. Okay, so let me select these three. Edit, auto align. We'll just do auto with vignette removal. So now it's put these three images together. And I did a pretty good job holding the camera level and straight, right? And then we'll do edit, auto blend layers, content aware fill. And that's it. So let's close that down. Let's save it as a TIFF. IBM PC, compression, bada bing. Oh, I should have got rid of all these layers. I don't really need these anymore. But anyway, it's saved. And we'll go back to this RGB. Where did it go? Here. So now it's stitched everything together. And then from here, I can just do some quick edits, right? So that's if you're just going to do it handheld. The most important thing is keep the camera level. Now, sometimes you can do panoramas where, well, I won't talk about that, but that's how you do a basic 3-shot panorama. Sometimes you can do 4 or 5 shots if it's really, really wide. Some people, they like to do the camera vertically, so they get more top and bottom. I don't like to do that myself, but the same thing would apply. You would just put your thumb here and take 3 shots, use your level meters and your grid lines, overlap each image by about a third, and then stitch using whatever panoramic software you might have. Now, OM Systems has a way to stitch in OM Workspace. Uh, I think I have a tutorial on that somewhere on my channel, so just search for panoramas on my channel and it should come up. It's not ideal. It's kind of a pain in the butt to do it that way. Uh, the best way really is just do it manually. Take 3 shots, overlap, stitch in third-party software. There's free third-party software out there as well that I'm testing. But, you know, Photoshop seems to work the best if you're going to do that. And if you want to get really complicated, you know, you can buy these nodal rails that, and then you can measure precisely the nodal point. There's techniques. So what you want to do is look for videos that talk about finding the nodal point of your lens, okay? And they'll tell you how to do that. It's pretty straightforward. You just got to line up 2 lines, okay, like this, to get rid of parallax error. And then normally you would need a nodal rail that you can slide on an Arc-Swiss plate so that you can line up the lens, you know, exactly where the nodal point is rather than using your thumb, which is just kind of a guesstimate, right? And then from there, you can get into I got a whole box of this stuff. But from there, you probably need a leveling base for your tripod. If your tripod doesn't have an leveling base, where you put your Arc-Swiss clamp up here, and then you want to get a perfect level, you would need to use this. You can't just do it with your tripod legs. You need a leveling base. And then you need some way to rotate it once you have the base leveled. So you can get one of these. So you could potentially put this on top of here, then put an Arc-Swiss clamp on top of that, then put this here and rotate. And then you get really carried away. You can get one of these that actually notches, right? So this will actually automatically click 1/3 for each shot. So if you're doing multiple shots, like more than 3, this will do that for you. You can overlap by 1/8 and just do a little bit at a time, or overlap by 1/2 and just keep. I don't know. It can get really complicated. I've kind of done it all when it comes to doing panoramas, but in practice, in real life, this is what I do in real life. You can also get a gearhead tripod, but software like Photoshop and other third-party panorama stitching software does such a good job at stitching together and blending images. Just doing it handheld, you can get really good results. The other thing, so that's sort of the logistics or mechanics of it. Now, you also have to make sure that you use the same exposure for each shot. So typically, when you take your first shot, right, the center, look at the exposure settings. You'll get the shutter speed, ISO, and aperture. Then you want to put the camera into manual mode and use the same shutter speed, aperture, and ISO that you got with that first shot that you shot, say, using the automatic exposure metering, right? The ESP or matrix or whatever. And then every shot after that will be the same exact exposure. So again, you'll get better stitching in stitching software that may not have auto exposure blending built in. So you can do it in camera, but it's just good practice to do that anyway. Or I should say best practice to set your exposure right after the first shot. And then let's see, is there anything else? That's all I can think of. So exposure, and so that's what I would do. I don't even set the exposure for each shot, because if the exposure is pretty even anyway, I don't worry about it and I let the software sort of blend it. But to get the very best results, you want to measure your exposure from the first shot, then set your camera manually for the other shots. Oh, the other thing is, once you've taken that first shot, you got your exposure, you also want to put your camera into manual focus mode. So that way, the next time you take a shot, the camera's not going to try to refocus, because you want to make sure that the focus plane or the focus point doesn't change from the lens. So after that first exposure, take all of your exposure settings, put the camera into manual mode, turn off autofocus, and take your 3 shots. And make sure you're level, use your grid lines, then use whatever software, and you should get really good results that way. Um, Gosh, I spent a lot of time on that, but I hope that makes sense. And then you can take it to level, all the way up. I've been looking at actually these automated robotic type panning heads, uh, that will automatically move the camera, take the picture, move the camera, take the picture. They're about $300-400 and up for something like that. Because I just love doing panos. I love doing them. I don't do them every time I go out, but I do them quite often. And I usually do it that way, just using my thumb and rotating. Okay, can you just press the AEL button? Yeah, you can do that too. Um, just you have to be conscious of what your AEL settings are, right? If you have the AEL setting so that the AEL doesn't turn off until you turn it off by pushing the AEL button again, that's the way you would do it. That would on every camera is a little different. On the Olympus cameras, it's like mode 2, I think. But double check. And Park says, I guess I'll stick with the first Gen Z6 and my pen app for monochrome. Yep. Seriously, you can get great monochrome from any camera. Uh, it's just if you have it's kind of a luxury to have a monochrome only camera. Um, because there's no need for it really, you know. Said, is it better to do time lapse in camera, or does it not matter? And most everyone will do this effect in post, as it will preserve the camera shutter count. Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you would do time lapse in post processing. Now, if you're talking about pushing the record button and just recording a movie for 30 minutes or an hour or however long, your camera can record for, and then going into post processing and just slicing that up into a time lapse. I've seen people do that. And yeah, that wouldn't even count as a shutter count because you're recording a movie. So I've seen people record 4K movie, but the downside to that is you don't get the same dynamic range, right? And resolution as doing mechanical shutter or silent shutter, but doing full raw images in time lapse. Then you can edit each image with the full dynamic range of your 12 or 14-bit RAW file. Um, so the question is it better to do time lapse in camera? So I would say, yes, it's better to do time lapse in camera and use silent shutter if you're worried about the shutter count. But I don't even worry about shutter count personally. Uh, because I don't do time lapse that often. If I did, maybe I would worry about it. But just use silent shutter, then you don't have to worry about it. Uh, and I have a video on time lapse, how I do it. So you can watch that. It's been a while. 'Cause I don't do it very often. Once a year, if that. Maybe once every other year, I might do a time lapse. But yeah, I would say doing it in camera with the raw images, and then in post-processing, processing the raws to get the very best time-lapse image quality, then combining all. So there's another whole workflow, right? Now, if you're talking about time-lapse in camera where the camera creates the movie, uh, that has nothing to do with shutter count, so I don't think you know but when the camera creates the movie, uh, that's kinda neat too, right? I've done a few videos on that. But I think what you're referring to is image quality. And when it comes to image quality, it's better to capture the RAWs in camera and process them than do all of the time lapse and post processing versus the other. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's the difference, right? You're talking about recording a movie or capturing RAWs, right? And I'm curious if Ricoh still plans to release a K3 successor or if K3 was the last K-mount. It seems they only sell GR compacts. I saw no new news about the K-mount for a long. Yeah, there's a guy on YouTube that talks about Pentax news, and I'm trying to remember what he said that I kind of thought was interesting because he was reading an interview with the Pentax people, right, or Ricoh people about the DSLRs. The idea being is that, oh, it's my mom. Hold on. Hello. Yeah. Yeah. Maxwell House ground coffee. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, with caffeine, yeah. If they have Maxwell House. No, no. No, ground. I don't want the beans, ground. Yeah, if they don't have Maxwell House, don't worry about it. No, no other brand. Just Maxwell House ground. Yeah. Sorry about that. She's she's going grocery shopping, so I said, "Oh, give me some Maxwell House." Okay, let's see. Oh, the Pentax. So, yeah, they were I wasn't optimistic about them making any more K-mount cameras after watching that video. I can't remember exactly what was said. But the challenge being, they're trying to attract new customers, and they're not gonna attract them with a K-mount, is basically, what I got from it. And Blaine says, "I haven't used this camera in a long time, but the Lumix Z70 bridge camera had in-body panorama mode. It was a really cool feature that worked decently for what it was." Yep. Yeah, some of the even the older Olympus cameras had in-camera panorama mode, but they got rid of it altogether. I think exposure lock does the same job. Yeah, I had a brain fart. Exposure lock would be way easier than setting it in the manual mode, right? But if you're not familiar with exposure lock, you can just do it manually. The OM5 and EM5 III have a cool panoramic feature in scene mode. You just swing the camera around and it stitches anything. What? I've never used that. Damn. I've never seen that. You're killing me. How could I not know that? I doubt the M1 has it, but I'm going to look because it has a scene mode. Okay, Starlight, Sport, Night Scene, Panorama. All right, exit. See, this is the, it's not doing it in camera. It's just giving you, all the panoramic mode does for me is give me lines to to follow. And that's what I thought it was in every other Olympus camera. Are you kidding me? I'm using the M5 here. Motion. Scenes. Panorama. So, yeah, it's the same thing. It says, take pictures to create a panorama image by PC. So I think you're mistaken. When I do it on my, that's the M5 Mark III I'm doing the live stream on, right? When I put it in a scene mode and I select panorama, it just gives me the lines. I take the pictures, but then I still have to take it into OM Workspace and stitch them. I can't stitch it in camera. But if there's something more to it than that, I'm gonna have to look into that. But simple quick panos. You guys are killing me. I don't believe it. I just tried it on the M5 Mark III. I don't see it unless I'm missing something. I'm gonna investigate this because it just makes no sense to me. But I've been doing EM10 OM Olympus tutorials for 8 years, and I don't know about this feature. Of course, right? I mean, nobody should be surprised. How could anybody possibly know everything? But how could I overlook this? Because I love doing panoramas. That's the irony of it. I love doing panoramas. And if OM Systems or Olympus can do panoramas in camera, I would have certainly been using them by now. I don't know. Okay. I want to hear from some other people if they've been doing this, and I've just totally missed this. And John says, nice tip for using thumb on pano. I tend to use M exposure focus when doing pano, but had not used the thumb to set the pivot point. Yeah, I saw that somewhere. Somebody, I saw it somewhere on YouTube. And it works. You get a little better stitching potentially, right? And Dave says, yes, but some cameras now can shoot video in higher res, either 6K, 8K, while time lapses in 4K raw images. So, I'm not seeing the rest of that message. But yeah, when you think about it, right, what you're saying is I didn't even think about 4K because our OM system cameras don't do 4K raw. They might do it externally via HDMI. I'm not sure. I'm not really a video guy. But there are cameras that do 4K raw. There might be some that do 6 and 8K raw too, right? In which case, I think even then it's limited 12-bit. I think you have to go very, very high-end camera to get more than a 12-bit raw via video, which is all our Olympus cameras do anyway, are 12-bit RAWs in photo mode. But some cameras do 14-bit RAW, but 12-bit's enough. So I would say if you can do 4K RAW in camera or by HDMI, whatever, if you can do 4K RAW in video, it makes more sense to just do 4K RAW in video than to do time lapse using the shutter and capturing still images. I would say that makes more sense. But if you cannot do 4K RAW, you'll get better image quality with a raw image always, right? Okay. Can someone go through the, yeah, please, someone go through the process. I don't have an OM5, number one, but I'm seeing comments here that the EM10 and the EM5 Mark III can do it in camera. I would be shocked if that's the case. I would be so shocked. And let's see, Rob, you are a professional. You never had to use it. No, I'm an amateur. I mean, professional by trade, meaning, yeah, I get paid to do some jobs, but I'm just a guy with a camera like anybody else, just having fun, right? Yeah, now I know some of the older Olympus did have in-camera panoramic stitching, but I didn't think the M10 had it. And John says, I've only been able to stitch OM5 panos in OM Workspace or third party. I'm probably doing something wrong. The EM10 Mark IV will stitch it. Okay, I don't have an EM10 Mark IV, but I'd be surprised if it did it in camera. And a few years ago, I did a handheld panel using scene mode feature, ended up with one. All right. You're saying a few years ago, you could be remembering wrong. I'm not saying you have a bad memory, but I know I've remembered things and I could have sworn up and down, like put my life on the line that I remembered something vividly and I was wrong. I didn't remember, I remembered it wrong altogether. But you guys are killing me. I'm going to look into this next week's stream, unless you come on my Tuesday shopping or Friday streams. But next week's stream, I'm going to put this to rest. EM10 Mark II, right? Yeah. Oh, hey, David. How are you? That's a great lens, by the way, that 40 that you let me borrow. Anyhow, I would be shocked. I would be absolutely shocked if the cameras have been able to do this all this time and I totally missed it because I would use it. I would use it a lot. I mean, I would take panos in camera, even if it only produced a JPEG. I would do cameras, take panos in camera, just so I don't have to do all that processing afterwards. Because if I get the exposure right, I don't really need to process much after the fact. Like those bird pictures I showed you, I hardly had to process those. Those were pretty much ready to go. I don't know, you guys. I'd be totally shocked. Yeah, phones definitely do panoramic photos. Definitely, I've seen that. But cameras, not so much. In-camera pan is usually just JPEG and ugly with reduced resolution. Yeah, PC saw. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the few in-camera panels I've seen, they left something to be desired. But I think I would still use it. Like, I would still use it just for fun. I'm not trying to get a perfect picture every time. I like to just have some fun with the camera. Let me get a wide shot. Oh, that's cool, right? I mean, not every shot has to be epic. I'm not trying to make every shot epic. I'm just trying to go out and shutter therapy, have some fun. Oh, I did a pano today. Today I did a double exposure. Today I used whatchamacallit, dramatic tone filter, which is like a fake HDR, which really everybody should hate, but I like it still. And uh yada yada yada. George, good to see you. Good to see you, George. The XZ1 does it automatically. Okay, I have an XZ2. I would be surprised. All right, I got an XZ2. I'm going to check. The XZ2 might. Uh, I think I put the XZ2. I thought I put it right here. Oh, here it is. No. Like this one. I don't know where my XZ2 went. It should be on the shelf. Oh, here it is. So I know this Olympus camera does in camera. See if it's got power. It should, yeah. This is a great little camera. This has a pano mode. So menu. I can't see crap. That's why I don't use this camera. I can't see anything. Scene mode.
I'm showing you a lot of Raven super fans tonight.
Alexa,
and
stop.
This one might be the craziest.
My God, this has so many scenes. Well, anyway, I know this one does it. But my XZ2, no battery. I'm going to put this to rest later. Oh, the XZ2 has the same, okay. So it doesn't have it, so I don't need to turn it on. But I'm pretty sure this one here, this is a really cool, I just love this camera. I bought it purely on its looks. I just think it's beautiful. But so pet mode, portrait mode, beauty mode, landscape, handheld mode, starry mode, sports, self-portrait mode. God, they had everything in here. Vivid, fireworks, still life, documents, snow, pets. I'm back to pets. So it's not in scene mode. What is this? This is multi-framing. Saves 2 photos or movies in different angles simultaneously. God, this has all kinds of stuff on it. Magic mode. Oh, those are art filters. Multi-framing. I think that's just double exposure. What is this? Photo with video clip, photo mode, auto mode, scene mode, 3D mode. Oh, here it is. It's right on the mode dial. Panorama mode. Panning camera slowly automatically creates panoramic image. Anyway, I got a pan. This has it. This has it. Okay. Phew. Serge says the M10 Mark IV had a new panorama mode. Peter did a video about it. Okay. Well, if Peter did it, I believe him. TG seems to do it in camera. Really? So I'm going to test my M5 Mark III and my M10 is kind of, it's a little rough. But the M5 Mark III, somebody's saying that that can do it in camera. There's no way. There's no way. M5 Mark. It's Mark II, Mark 1, where's my Mark III manual? What's the acronym? RTFM? So if I do pano, take photos that can be afterwards joined on the computer. So they're talking about not in camera. Panorama, okay, that's shooting in panorama. Highlight, panorama scene mode, press OK. Remaining images overlap. May include up to 10 images. During panorama, this previous image taken in alignment will not be displayed with the frames or other markers. After taking the last shot, press OK. So there's nothing. Pictures taken using this option can be joined together to form. You will need to install the latest version of Olympus Workspace. So the M5 Mark III, as far as I can tell, does not have in-camera. I just don't see it. I don't see it. So I'm going to put that to rest. But EM10 Mark IV, right? Okay. So I don't think I even downloaded the manual for that camera. Here it is. Panel 31. So this has a few more pages. Scrolling panoramas. So it says here, take panorama photos with a wider angle view. For information, taking photos, page 46. Fine. Take a series of shots that are joined together. See, this doesn't say joined together after. This says just joined together. Shooting a panorama. Okay. Bada, bada, bada. Ah, see, the bar here is different. I don't have the sidebars. When now display recent and progress bar, shooting will end in the camera. Yeah. So that's new. The camera will create the panorama. Okay. And the Mark II has it. Okay. I've never used it, but I will. Apparently the R5 has a panoramic mode. So Roger says, go to page 50. You take a series of photos with overlap. But yeah, we're talking about, where's the M5? EM1. Here's the OM5 manual. Pano. Shooting panorama, page 71. See, this doesn't have it. See, when I see the bars here on the right and left, and then after taking the last shot, press OK to end the series, and then it goes to art. Yeah, so the OM5 does not do it in camera. Right here, they tell you installing PC software. Page 67, scene mode. Yeah, so OM5 does not do it. EM5 Mark III, though. Why? How come I can't find it now? Here, M5 Mark III. So, page 50. Yeah, we talked about this. It says afterwards here. Afterwards can be joined. So, yeah, there's no way. There's no way. EM5 Mark III doesn't do it in camera. Page 54. All right, hold on. So page 54, shooting panorama. Framing each shot, guides with overlap previous guide. Yep. Press OK to end. But this is not for stitching. Because right after stitching, it goes into art filters. I'm sorry, Roger. I'm about 99% sure the M5 Mark III does not do in-camera stitching. Pictures taken with this can be joined together to form a panorama. You will need to install the latest OM workspace to join the pictures together. It says right there. So if you're saying that it can be done in camera, I don't see it in the manual. If you're confirming that it cannot be done in in camera, then yeah, it says so in the manual. So I'm not sure where the conversation may have gotten disjointed where we actually agree. But yeah, okay, Roger. I'm pretty sure for anybody watching, EM5 Mark III does not do in-camera stitching. EM10 Mark IV does. That's weird because they use the same processor, right? I don't get it. All right. Gosh, it's going on almost 3 hours. I think I'll call it here. I'm getting hungry too. So you guys, thanks so much for joining today. I had a lot of fun, learned some things. EM10 Mark IV does panorama, and hopefully I was able to share with you guys a few tips and tricks. And some of the photos were you guys seem to like. So thanks for that. And I'll be back on Tuesday for shopping, where you can buy through my affiliate links and I can make a few bucks that way. But the main idea being is we need to find some deals, right? I found some hand warmers for $10. I ordered some more. Like I don't have enough hand warmers, but I wanted these. So I'll talk about those. Maybe they'll come in before the stream on Tuesday. But I got these hand warmers for $10 that look really good. And there's a couple other deals I'm looking for. Hopefully those will be ready. There's a fanny pack for $15. Anyway, I'll talk about it on Tuesday. But thanks for much coming in today. I'll see you guys again next week for another photo chat.